All right. Can you hear me?
I still hear you.
Okay. So you're giving it a try.
Yep.
All right. Let me know when.
We should be live.
All right. Sweet action. If you don't mind, I'm going to work on these Zangors a little bit before
Yeah.
we're 100% ready.
I believe we're 100% ready.
Oh, are we? Okay. All right. Let me know
Oh,
yes.
it is so loud in my ears. I apologize to people that may have heard me. There we go. Totally working.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, glad to be on.
Yeah. It sounds to me like everything's... I'm doing like audio checks because last time we did this, George muted me and Chris for about 50 minutes
Uh huh. Uh
until we actually started working.
huh.
But I can hear you. I can hear me.
Okay. So we're good.
We're gravy, dude. We don't need George. George can be off the grid on his Burning Man festival all he wants because we got this going.
There you go. Hey, listen, James. I was going to ask you a question, and maybe some other people might be interested in this, and maybe you can enlighten me a little bit. Okay, so,
Off for it.
but let's talk about the Chaos Army and specifically how obliterators work. Okay, now they have.
Okay.
I know. So I was just randomly thinking about it, and that's how I do things, very random. So in designing my army, when I'm playing with them, I know that each time they shoot, they have a strength, an AP, and a damage, and you roll those each individually. Okay? And then
Okay.
if you use a certain stratagem, like the endless cacophony, I believe it is, with the Slanesh, and you can
Yeah.
shoot again at the end of the phase, I understand that you re-roll all that,
Yes,
right?
you do.
That okay, so you re-roll all that. However, let's say, okay, I haven't used the command point in the shooting phase, okay, and can I pick which order to roll the strength, the damage, and the AP?
Unfortunately, no, you cannot. It's always going to be strength first, and then it's going to be second AP, and then the third's going to be damage.
It specifically says that, huh?
Yeah, it says it like in the flesh metal rules.
Oh, okay. I didn't even. I was just like thinking about that on the car on the way home. I was like, okay, so it specifically says that.
Yeah, I mean when I remember when 8th edition started rolling out with these codexes, and Chaos is one of the first codexes.
Right.
And we haven't seen codexes like this previously in 7th, 6th edition. And when people started playing it, I was in a couple tournaments where people were randomly rolling it because they just thought it was like flesh metal that changed. Notice that it says when you pick them to shoot.
Right.
Now, the thing with Endless Cacophony, you can do it on any unit. It's not like they automatically get to shoot twice.
You shoot. Okay, so I understand that now. Because like, I think the most important one on those obliterators is the damage against certain targets. that I so
It's
I want to
between the
keep
damage or the AP for sure.
so because
Yeah, well, strength doesn't necessarily matter because you're already going to automatically have strength 7,
right.
and you go up to strength 9. So you're really hoping for is a 3 or a 4, and you're pretty much good on any target. So that
Well,
one's not nearly as important.
so I was listening to some podcasts, and this is why I asked because you know I don't know about your local meta or how tournaments around the country work. I'm very new to this tournament scene. But from what I understand, the way to do things right now is to use Imperial Knights, some Blood Angels, and then you get the Astra Military, and then there's this cheese that they pull that they call farming of command points, where the Blood Angels have this one character. You can give them a relic that lets them get a command point back. One has one or like similar and strategist. So basically, they have like endless command points. And when I think about it, they just use it to power up their knights, and they're very powerful characters. So I'm trying to take down knights.
Yeah, a lot of people see a problem in it, but even before we got boosted in command points, if you think that gives you a 5 up and you get a command point back, just one of them, regardless of being able to steal your opponents or not, you're typically going to be pretty set on command points if you build your army correctly and pre-think what command points before you use it. Okay. So I never saw like this endless farm of command points being a problem, because now they just got a couple extra stratagems they can use that they weren't planning on using. They're just kind of bonuses. So it for me, it's not like groundbreaking. The Agents of Vect is, well, I think Agents of Vect is so much harder and more annoying to play against, because you can build your army and you plan on using stratagems like to make your combo happen. Only reason why you might take a certain type of unit, like I would never take Berserkers unless I bring them Alpha Legion, because I can almost guarantee my turn 1 strike or charge.
Right. You don't believe in the Rhino Berserker strategy.
Yeah, I really don't. Not when they can get popped in backfield. It just, unless you have a bunch of them and do the whole Rhino rush, but that's just not my style of playing. Like, I don't really like picking vehicles. I like the MSU style of different flavor and like looking for these combos. So when you have armies that like heavily rely on certain stratagems, or even just the auto pass morale on like a clutch unit, it really hurts you so much more than, oh, I get an extra command point that I can do an extra reroll, or I can interrupt the charge and I get to swing. Like, I think stopping me from doing clutch things that could be game changing for me is way harder to deal with. Like, if I was any type of Eldar, I would be having a patrol detachment of Dark Eldar with like either witches or Talos or something like that.
But let me
and I would just constantly using that.
Let me ask you this though, because I hear, because you played against Dark Eldar when I haven't yet. But I've looked at it because I have Eldar as another one of my armies, and I was thinking about getting, a Dark Eldar detachment so I could get access to that. However, that's a 3 command point stratagem, and Eldar and Dark Eldar, I know that they have, like, there is a method that they can recoup a few command points, but it's nothing like a command point farm. I mean, realistically, if you bring 2 battalions and then, let's say, another Outrider or a Fly Wing or whatever, you're going to have about 13 command points, or, something, a good amount, but they go pretty fast. And you're able to use Agents of Vect a couple times, and you're going to be out of command points before you know it. So I think that's a mitigating factor with how expensive it is, don't you? Or you haven't seen that being...
Okay, that was my initial impression. Is when I first saw the codex, like, wow, that's a really nasty stratagem. But they're only be able to use that like once, maybe twice a game.
Right.
I've had it used on me 5 times in one game. The reason why is they get the chance to steal your command points when you go to use your stratagem. And then they use Agents of Vect, and then they get to try to get those command points back.
Okay, so they have one of those. I think they had something where you roll 5 or 6 every time an opponent uses
yeah, so imagine you're using 2 command points, auto pass morale. They get a chance to roll that back. If they roll over a 1 on their thing, you don't get to do that. So they just got a free chance just to get free command points. And then they get to roll their 3 dice to see if they get their 3 command points refunded. So on average, it's only going to cost them 2 command points. And I've seen it where they've gained a command point.
Okay, so that's how theirs works. It's like, because some of those regenerating command points, they're worded so that it's based on a stratagem, not an actual command point spent. Like, for instance, like, I don't remember which ones are which. I'm still a little shady in all the rules when it comes to certain other army factions, but I do understand that there's very particular wording. Some of them say, oh, for every command point spent, if you roll 5 or 6, you get it back. And others, like when they use a stratagem, regardless of how many command points, you could get a command point.
Yes, right? You're 100% correct. It's all about how it's worded. They have it where it's command points spent, so that's what makes it so much more nasty.
Yes.
Most of them are just stratagems used, so you're only getting 1 roll, even though it's a 3 command point stratagem. Where Death Guard, they have to roll an exact 7 on 2 dice, and they get all of theirs refunded for how much the stratagem was worth.
Okay.
So, it's interesting. All this farm, it makes it so that a lot of armies can do what they shouldn't be able to do because of the way their armies build. If you want to keep it fluffy,
right?
But people are taking advantage of that. But like I said, it's only going to give you a couple extra stratagems. And yeah, they may be game turning because that's how valuable a lot of these stratagems are. I mean, we've had conversations where I tell you I take a hero that's worth 70 something points, and the only reason I take him is so I can get a Gaze of Fate reroll.
Right.
Like,
Right.
to me, if I can do that 3 times, that's 3 extra command points I wouldn't have gotten.
Well,
And I have a way better chance of getting that back on instead of a 5-up reroll. Like, I do a command point, I get a 5-up and see if I get it back. I'd rather have 2 dice, know I'm getting a reroll, and then I could still use a reroll on top of that. Like, not for the same dice, but on something that's 2 dice. I can now reroll 1 dice and then reroll the other.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Let's say I have 2 abilities that, say, for instance, on a 5 or a 6, for every command point spent, I get one. Let's say I spend 1 command point stratagem, and then I roll, let's say, do I roll 2 times at once or 1 at a time? How about if I roll 2 5s? Do I get points back for 1 that I spent? Can you actually, what I'm asking is, can you actually spend a command point and actually gain command points by spending 1 based on your roll?
Yes, when you do the Imperium Blood Angel combo, they sometimes come up positive after using a command point.
I think, what's funny to me is that in the latest FAQ, they saw that that was a problem with Feel No Pain or, the rolls, and they made it so that, like, before, it's like I could have, like, an ability that let me ignore a wound on a 5 or 6, and another one that lets me ignore one on a 6, and I got to roll both times. And they nerfed that, saying you just...
Ali, I think I lost you. Oh, no. Ali, you're talking, but I'm not hearing anything from you, bud. I think you froze. We lost an Ali. Oh, is he coming back?
Can you hear me?
We got you back. And I know we just jumped right in this, and I appreciate this. But we haven't even introduced you, Ali.
Oh, sorry.
This is the first time having one of our Warp Charge Gaming members in the chat with us. This is Ali. He's a great friend of Warp Charge Gaming. He's part of the group, and this is his first time being able to join the hangout with us. And it's a perfect time that he can join because George is out of town.
Right on.
You can tell this guy's enthusiastic about talking rules and what's going on in the meta.
No, but what I'm saying, I was going to say is that I found it surprising that they nerfed the Feel No Pain by letting you only roll 1 time. Whereas when it comes to these command points, they totally overlook the command point farming, which is, unusual based on how Games Workshop has really, carried themselves since the new CEO and the 8th edition launch. I think they dropped the ball on this one because it's quite annoying to play an army that's Imperial Guard, Knights, and Blood Angels, and they have like infinite command points. Even if you have Agents of Vect, it's still, you're still gonna get frustrated.
I agree, but I still think Agent of Vect is worse, like, so much, and like they just gave it to somebody. Like, you have to find loopholes for this endless command points, and it still comes down to dice rolls. But Agents of Vect, man, if you have unlimited command points and you're using those points, so now that Dark Eldar player going against that Blood Angel Imperial player gets to try to steal command points as they're getting them for free. So just think, like, you're getting command points back. Now they can stop you from using your command points and still get a chance to get them back. Right. Like, I feel it's because when you're planning your moves and like target priorities based off certain command points, then they're stopping that. It completely throws off the plan. Where, like, if you have a stratagem that allows you to hit me on 5s in Overwatch, I'm like, it's 1 better dice. Like, I might lose an extra 1-2 dudes. No big deal.
Right.
But you stop me from being able to re-roll my charge, or there's just so many things. Yeah. There's so many things. Like, especially with ITC and like it's kill more or hold more. Like, if they stop you from fighting again and you had to kill a certain target, there's the turn right there. Now they just went up in points.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll be curious to see how it works when I personally use them myself, and when I play against someone that is Dark Eldar or has a detachment of Dark Eldar within Eldar army, to see how that really impacts the game. I know it sounds very powerful, and I was speaking to my friend Ryan about this, and he was like, "Is it really that powerful?" And it sure looks it. And then now talking to you, it seems that it's even more powerful than I think that it is without having played it.
Well,
So,
I was kind of calling this out in our group thread on Facebook.
oh, you mean? But they can't. Oh, I see. Wait. Is there some kind of triples tournament where they?
No, detachments for your 1,000 points. So you're gonna take like 300 points of guard just to get your relics, your blood angels with your slam captains, so that they're ignoring Overwatch and busting your.
Right. Hard. Those, when you're talking about these Dark Eldar vehicles with -1 to be hit, a 5-up invulnerable, and then you give them feel no pain, they become pretty survivable on paper, at least.
Yeah. Flyers meta, people don't really realize it, but when you play GC with their current behind enemy lines, all you have to do is get 2 units in the opponent. You know how easy that is to do with 2 planes? Like, you just fly them back there, and then you start just wreaking havoc.
Right.
And by the time they deal with your planes, the rest of your army is in their face.
This is driven by tournament rules where, I know some of these top players. I heard one of their lists today on the ride home from work that they had six Eldar. They had an Eldar list with 6 flyers, 3 of each of the Hemlock and the Crimson Hunter. And that seems excessive. But then I thought about it in an ITC format, that makes sense, because the flyers can be used to get those secondary objectives. You don't have the boots on the ground type of rule for them when it comes to these tournament formats.
There is boots on the ground, but you can always go into hover mode to still capture things. But when you're dealing with the secondaries and ITC missions, you're dealing with table quarters for recon. You're dealing with behind someone's line, where it doesn't necessarily matter about holding an objective.
Right.
And then they're really hard to deal with because you're already dealing with neg1 to hit. You can put in neg1 to hit on one of your flyers. Now they're neg2. You can put them in people's faces. You can drop bombs on them, dealing mortal wounds. It's a lot with, but you probably heard that list at ATC, and ATC is completely different. Where the individual tournament meta isn't going to necessarily be there because there's teams of 5 people, and the team captain picks like an attacker and a defender. So based off of seeing someone else's list, you already had a rock, paper, scissors in your team, and you're like, all right, so this guy's going to play this list.
I think we got
so, Chris is going to jump on here soon.
Yeah. But hey, let me ask you one more thing while I got you on this, because this is being the line. Let's say Let's say I have an Eldar flyer, and it's a Leotok, and it's over 12 inches away. So we're talking a -1 hit because it's a flyer, -1 because of Leotok, and then you can stack on. Let's say you get use a stratagem to make a -3 to hit for the sake of arguing. And let's say there are certain units out there that say, hey, when shooting flyers, you ignore to hit them. Are they talking about just that -1 for the fly rule, or are they talking about across the board? You see, so if I have one of those, like a Hydro or like a Hyperion, there's certain units, I believe at least, that say ignore penalties when shooting at flyers, as opposed to add 1 to hit when shooting at flyers.
Have you seen that doesn't have necessarily fly like a plane? They're not neg1 to hit, but now you just got a +1 to hit to them.
Sure.
And that's how the pylon works.
but let's talk about the supersonic. Are you sure it says the supersonic keyword, or does it say ignore penalties to hit flyers? So if I have a flyer that might have a -1 because it's supersonic, but then it's a lay attack, and I stack on some other abilities onto it, like conceal. I get it to a -3 to hit. If it says ignore penalties to hit a flying vehicle, that you're sure that's the supersonic rule is what they're referring to,
Well,
right?
actually, I haven't seen it where it says just Norbies. I've seen it where it's calls out that supersonic rule.
Oh, okay, that's probably what I was thinking of then. Okay, so it's just
Because
that one.
if it said like all penalties to hit, then yeah, like with that logic, it would get rid of all that. But I have not seen that.
Okay, I had to read it closer. I might have just grazed through it and just thought that that's what I came across.
Trust me, I've gotten super excited off certain rules that not what they said, but my mind said they said something completely different.
Same here.
Like Rex, hey Chris, but like Scabathrax, he has a neg 1 to hit in the fight phase. Well, when I first started playing that model, I thought it was neg 1 to hit all the way. So I'd give him neg 1 to hit, put Masma. He would be neg the Forp Invul, toughness 9 with a 5 of disgusting resilience. I was like, yeah, he stays around forever. No, that was not the rule.
Hey, let me ask you guys another question. If I have a unit, I have a Chaos Lord that needs a 2 to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that has a 2+ ballistic skill, and I would cast something like Prescience on him, where he gives him +1 to hit. That means he automatically hits, right? Or does a
Nope.
1 always fail?
No,
1 always fails.
How is it that a 1 always fails, but a 6 doesn't always succeed? There are circumstances where orcs can, if I use a stratagem that provides another -1 to hit, there's no way they can hit me. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So a 1 always fails, but a 6 doesn't always succeed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they need to do something about that.
I agree with you. I think a 6 should always hit no matter what, because I mean that's the old invisibility rules, like
Mm-hmm.
for 7th edition. Like, cause that's basically what you're doing is when you're making something neg 2 or neg 3 to hit, and it goes to a 6-up ballistic skill for your opponent. That's basically old school invisibility.
Right. Right. But it also seems like in the spirit of the rules, there's a reason why they make them 1 always miss. You know, they don't
Well,
want
I
somebody
mean,
to
yeah,
you know.
I certainly agree. I certainly agree. Actually, this is kind of related to what you were just talking about, as well as this topic, as far as failure, automatic or not. But Overwatch. So as it's written,
Mm-hmm.
modifiers affect Overwatch, but 6s always succeed. So like rare instances, like guard can get Overwatch on a 5-up, but my modifier still affects them. Overwatch on a 5-up
Yes.
unmodified specifically.
Okay. Okay. So if it says unmodified specifically,
Yes.
but
So that was actually a weird one that I actually came across because I thought I had a gotcha moment with George when the Tau Codex just dropped because I had proved this worked on a guard player. And then he was like specifically bringing up his rules, and the war gear said, like it's a 5-up unmodified. I was like, damn, okay, well you got me there, man.
so wait a second. If I have a unit that I cast Prescience on, which
Mm-hmm.
gives them a +1 to hit, and do they hit on a 5 or a 6? Or does the modifier doesn't work both ways? Is it a one-way street, or is it a two-way street?
I'm actually not sure. I don't think I've ever had that come up specifically in terms of the other way around.
Well, Chris threw me for a loop. Because I've always thought your Overwatch was always modified unless you have a rule that states otherwise.
Unless they've FAQ'd it, but I specifically remember looking this up because the Tau War Gear is worded in contrast to it.
Yeah, I just assumed that there was no modifiers involved when it comes to Overwatch.
Actually, hold up. I have my rulebook right over here.
I always misremember rules.
Dude, I already got it right here, man. Don't even worry.
Oh, word?
I'm already on the page.
See, I'm wondering. It's like, yeah, and probably spells like Prescience specifically probably call out on the shooting phase. They probably make allotments for that. But there might be circumstances where a unit could have +1 to hit. Or
Okay. So it definitely doesn't say anything about, but it says a target unit can potentially fire Overwatch as long as you're within 1 inch, or as long as you're not within 1 inch. Overwatch is resolved like a normal shooting attack, but 1 resolves in the enemy's charge phase and uses all normal rules except that 6 is always required for a successful hit. So it's always required for a successful hit.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I
like,
know how this works now. The guard rule to Overwatch on a 5-up does not specify that modifiers don't affect it. And Overwatch, in the normal context of the paragraph you just read, also doesn't say modifiers don't affect it. It just says straight 6s permanently.
yeah.
Let me ask you guys another question. Let's say I'm firing plasma on overcharge, and
Yep.
I have a 2-up ballistic skill. All right.
Yep.
And I have prescience cast on me, which gives me a +1 to hit, and I roll a 1.
You
Still counts as a 1.
It's a fail, but does it mean my guy dies?
Still take the wound. Yeah.
Yep.
Even though I get a +1?
Yeah.
That's the plasma rule.
It specifically says, I forget, but like some of them are worded specifically, I think, to be like, what is it? It has to be the natural dice roll.
Okay. So 1, no, because a plasma gun, if I have a -1 to hit on a 1 or a 2, I die.
Yes.
Overcharge.
That is true. But ones always fail. That's just how it is. You always fail on a 1.
Mean the natural one always fails, but does that mean I die though? Because that +1 modifier would make it a 2. I'm wondering, like, if what I'm trying to get through my head is that if the negative modifier can take you from 2 to a 1 to kill you,
why does it work one way?
Mean a positive modifier can save you. Right?
Dude, you're having an American mindset. This game was written in England, man. Shit's not fair.
No, but it seems like, it would work both ways.
Yeah, I reckon so.
I got one more question for you guys. Since I'm not much of a tournament player, I heard in a lot of these tournaments, they make the first floor of buildings block line of sight.
Yes.
ITC4, yes. Actually, on that note, Ollie, and you'll find this is interesting, you know that new set of ruins that's coming out?
Yes, that looks awesome, by the way.
They are actually all specifically built to the ITC standard of not having any openings on the first floor.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, and same with all of ITC's terrain that they manufacture.
Okay, so if there's no openings, can infantry go through it?
Yes, they can. They break through walls.
Infantry can go through walls. Other things that are not infantry have to be able to make it to the first, have to stay on the first floor, and you either have to scale walls or go around them, counting whatever distance.
Infantry can go through walls without openings?
Yep.
Correct. They literally just move through walls like they're teleportation ghosts.
The way the fluff is written is if they smash through it, they find holes, they scale the wall. They write it in a way that they find their way through the wall.
Okay, let's pretend it's not a wall, but it's a line of sight blocking piece of terrain.
Then they cannot get through it. It's impassable.
But isn't this line of sight? It's not a wall anymore. It's a line of sight blocking terrain, isn't it? If the whole first floor, there's no openings in it, it ceases to be a wall.
If it's like a rock, it becomes an impassable piece of terrain.
Interesting.
It specifically is worded that for walls of like ruins and stuff like that.
In the back of the main rule book, the big rule book, not like the free thing, it has all the terrain rules.
Okay. Now, I knew that rule, but I didn't realize that, if...
It also means you can literally charge through walls.
Yes, it does.
Huh.
With infantry.
I love putting my Alpha Legion Berserkers into a building, and then I charge out of it, and you can't overwatch me. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no line of sight can be drawn, literally, so you dodge the overwatch.
Yep, do it all the time.
If you have, unless you charge something that doesn't need line of sight to hit.
Yeah,
that's
then you
true.
take it.
Right, okay. All right, I was going to lose my sanity there for a second.
Yeah, no. One thing's really interesting that I do sometimes is I like to play Nurglings, and because of their deployment rule, they can set up anywhere as long as they're 9 inches away from the opponent's deployment and deployment enemy unit. So sometimes I will put them in a building that has no way out. Like we'll declare like this is a building, because they might have units that can go through. So I will put Nurglings in a building, and they can't get out. Like, they're trapped there because they are swarms. Even though they're troops, they're not infantry, so they can't go through walls.
So you just make them invulnerable.
But why
I literally have trapped them in. Well, let's say there's an objective there, or I'm trying to screen because I have a character that's going to be coming up the field.
Right.
Like,
that's a good point.
Hey, that's 8th edition for you.
But infantry can get in there.
Infantry can get in there, and I've died many times to like a character just coming through and say, "Oh, free Nurgling to kill."
Interesting.
But I'd rather make them come get me than having to shoot at me.
Yeah, they have to dig you out of there.
Yep.
You know,
so like, if I have, like I love search and destroy, for example, because the deployment zone's really weird. So I can put them in like a table quarter, and I can do it like on another side of the board, or just castle up on the other side of the board, where now I'm like holding 3 corners of the board, and I take recon. So all I have to do is get in their deployment or just cross that line, and I'm racking up points. Gotcha. And they have to go get rid of that unit to make me stop racking up points.
Yeah. One thing, even with the nerf when it comes to deep striking, I still feel that having infiltrators is imperative. I really
absolutely.
I don't want.
I'm same way. I'm right there with you, man. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I really wish my army had them. I'll be honest.
Well, you might be able to get them in allies. Chris, you played Tyranids, right?
Yeah.
And you can. I'm sure Gene Stealer Cult has something like that that will come out.
They don't, but I could always take a guard detachment if I take a cult detachment, so I could take like Ratlings, you know.
Yeah.
If I really wanted.
Okay, so do Ratlings deploy during? See, it's a very big difference between like something like Eldar Rangers and like Alpha Legion infiltrators versus something like Nurglings and Scouts. Nurglings and Scouts set up during deployment.
Yeah,
so you could deny space right off the bat.
Nurglings
Eldar
are
Rangers
my
set up after deployment.
Yeah, Nurglings are my first unit I put down before I put anything. A lot of people are like, "Oh, this is in Deep Strike. This is in Deep Strike," and they start rolling off their command point things. No, Nurglings are first, because if you have Scouts, you're not going to stop my Berserkers from coming in from Alpha Legion infiltrating. Like, Nurglings are my like savior. They win me more games than anything else on my list.
I believe it. I mean, especially that like I've been confounded by many a Nurgling just being survivable and like small. Like literally, that's an advantage of Rippers, Nurgling, Scarabs, all that stuff. They are hard to draw line of sight to because they're small.
That too. But what I like this is one thing I don't like about the Chaos Codex. It sort of forces you to get a detachment with Nurglings in it. Then it forces you to get the Alpha Legion. So you need the Nurglings so you can put your like other guys, you know, the Berserkers or cultists. I like to put like a unit of 40 cultists right out in front of the enemy, you know. And even with Imperial Knights, it slows down their advance, because if I understand it correctly, Imperial Knights can walk over infantry and swarms. Only if they're falling back, however. They can't do it in the movement phase. They can do it when they're engaged in combat and they leave combat. So if I set my Alpha Legion infantry...
Do us twice. But I was going against 7 knights. It was the one big harpoon knight, 2 close combat big knights, and then 2 units of 2 smaller shooting knights. And it was super interesting. I was able to go first. No, I went second, I believe. But I pulled myself in a way that I was out of range of the Flamer Knight, but I wrapped around to the back end of where like the smaller shooting knights were. And I was able to get my Noise Marines and my Cultists into a small knight, wrap it up, and then I had my 40-man cultist unit tailed across the middle of the field all the way back with my characters behind it. So all the big knights couldn't walk over it because they weren't in combat with it. And they had to walk into it. And then I would pull where I needed to pull so that I couldn't shoot anything. I had 2 turns of knights only having Nurglings to shoot at.
Dope.
I have to pick your brain on that one. Let's see that.
Oh, man. I really thought like I was going to lose, but I ended up winning by 1 point.
I had that really frustrating game because of the way all I had left was like 3 Tyrannofexes that were acid spray, and George had these damn Nurglings that were just circling this piece of this ruined building, and the Tyrannofexes are slow enough and the Nurglings were fast enough that I just couldn't circle the building and kill them all fast enough. And as a result, I did not table him, and he had, I think, just slightly. No, actually, I beat him out that game, but it was like by a point. Like it was frustrating.
See, one of the things that I want to talk to you guys about is like, depending on the mission rules, all right? And there's this whole debate about building your army to blow stuff up or to control the board, because usually you can't have both. You're gonna have to build it one way or another.
Yep.
Well,
right? And I'm like struggling with this. Every time I get the requisite amount of board control that I feel like I'm gonna dominate the board control, I basically have no shooting and nothing that's gonna really do any damage. And there's a few units.
Well, I'm right there with you, Ali, because we play the same army currently. I know you have mini armies, but you're currently playing with Chaos. And I'm right there with you. Like, I want that, like, middle of the road, and I think I found it, but if I lose certain units at certain times based off certain opponents, like, I lost the game. Like, I have to play to my best to be a great player, like, to, like, compete with some of these lists. But, I mean, I have the board control with 3 units of Nurglings, 1 unit of 40-man cultists that gives me middle board, the edges. Then I have 2 smaller cultist units holding up the backfield with my Herald that does the Gaze of Fate reroll. I have Obliterators that come in turn 2 because the deep striking beta rules,
right.
Obliterators are not the same. Like, you can't bring them in turn 1 in your own deployment because they only have 20 frames. So you have to wait till turn 2 unless they are in your deployment zone.
Or if you go second and they advance up the board like 4 inches.
You know? But I don't want to go second. I want to go first. Yeah. So, like, I really put all my eggs in that basket of going first. So I plan on when I build my list, I plan this out. So if I have an opportunity to take advantage of them deep striking turn 1, I do it. But they're meant to come in turns 2. And I have my Leviathan. Thing like the Slanesh one that gets 9 to 10 attacks, all at strength 10, and then the Corn Demon Prince with re-rolling wounds on anything with Titanic keyword, and that thing gets 6 attacks plus a 7 with the claw, but the 6 are hitting on 2s. It's strength like I think a 12 when you're charging in. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. So I mean, I have these 2 badass demons, and with my Sorcerer buffing things up because I give my 40-man cultist unit a feel no pain. I give my Leviathan a neg 1 to hit because I give him the Mark of Nurgle. So he's neg 2 to hit because he's Alpha Legion. Like, I make it so I'm very survivable where I need to be survivable, my key units, and I spread everywhere. And at first, I've taken over 1,000 points off someone's army turn 1. And if I go second, I'm already everywhere on the board. So I'm keeping you where I want you, and I just have to take a turn of shooting that I wouldn't have taken if I gone first.
Right on, right on. Now,
so, like, that's where my army is. And, like, I've been smashed, man. I played Dark Angel or Dark Eldar and Harlequins, and I only got 3 points, and I think I maybe, like, killed a single unit. Like, I just got smashed, like, tabled by turn 3. But I've played Blood Angels and Guard and destroyed them. Like,
that's so ass backwards for me. Like, I like smashed Connor's Yunari last I played them, and like a few Harlequin units, but like those armies like Guard and stuff like that just are a huge uphill battle for me.
Yeah, me and Chris were talking earlier today, and he was like just laying out his Tyranid army that he's going to be taken to this upcoming tournament, and it was kind of like low. It wasn't a Tyranid army that I'm used to hearing about. There were no Gene Stealers in it.
Zero Genes. I've largely been playing without them. I want to use more of them as Gene Stealer Cult. They're good as Gene Stealer Cult because you can get that turn one assault or not if you don't want to, But I have lots of giant monstrous creatures, and some of them have T8, some of them have T7. I mean, my list right now is running 9 monstrous creatures, 10 monstrous creatures, something like that. And then there are a bunch of other stuff.
Your list just reminds me of just post beta, like the post FAQ, like 7 Hive Tyrant lists. Like you just got different monsters instead of Hive Tyrants.
Exactly. I just literally was like, well, like, all right, well, let's just literally that was my thought process with Tyrannifexes, and I told George, like, I was like, what unit can I spam instead of Hive Tyrants that would probably still be decently effective?
I don't even know what a Tyrannifex is, to be honest with you guys. What is
that's
that?
the
Is that like a Trigon?
It's about the size of the spawning creature, the Turvagon.
Okay.
But it has guns instead of spawns.
Okay, I think I know what it is.
And yeah, so I run one that has the heavy gun that is 48 inches, strength 10, neg 3, d6 damage.
Oh wow.
And all of these guys can shoot twice if they don't move.
Nice.
And he also has like a heavy bolterish kind of gun. And then the other one I run is a flamer version. It's only an 18-inch flamer. It's strength 7, 2d6 shots, neg 1, d3 damage.
Oh wow.
So like even Overwatch, like dude, I've taken out Demon Princes charging me. Like it's just like, oh yeah, like I got 11 shots at strength 7.
Yeah. No one wants to charge that. You got to shoot that thing.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, if you let me get an 18-inch range and I don't move, I'm firing off the flamer twice per model each turn. So it's like it very quickly becomes a problem for infantry. It very quickly becomes a problem for elites. Even tanks, like even wounding on 5s, I'm like, like I don't care. I'll get some wounds off.
Does that thing have an invulnerable save?
Unfortunately, no. But the way I like to roll them up is with High Fleet Leviathan to give them the 6-up Feel No Pain, and I stick a Malanthrope near them to give them neg 1 to be hit. Okay. So they end up, moderately more survivable than they should be.
Yeah, but with my army, I would just put Cultists right next to them charging something, and then tying in there, wrapping around.
Oh yeah, man.
Having the Berserkers kill the dude that gives them the neg 1, and then next turn Demon Princes are killing that thing because they can't go anywhere.
That's certainly, a good way to handle them. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there's also other big monstrous creatures good in combat that I kind of hope to support those kinds of situations.
They died early on from the shooting phase.
Hey, there's something to be said for cannon fodder, and I think that it's underappreciated.
Dude, especially when your cannon fodder is 89-point Carnifexes, it's like, oh, who gives a crap?
But even more so, like large,
Dude, that's what my Leviathan is.
Well, for instance, let's say sometimes like if you're fighting like a Shadow Sword or something like that. If I have a Demon Prince or something, I'm gonna be scared to charge that Shadow Sword because even one hit can kill him.
Yep.
But if I charge cultists against it, I couldn't care less.
Because
one hit's only gonna kill one cultist.
Of course, the big thing to keep in mind with a lot of the super heavies is that being locked with infantry doesn't stop them from overwatching.
Yes, but a lot of them are really big, especially those tanks. And if you circle up well enough where they can't pull their model completely out of combat, they stay there.
Then they can't fall back.
Wait. If it's already in, like, let's say I charge.
If it's already in combat with infantry, a lot of them still have a rule to where they can still overwatch.
Something else
unless you have a vehicle or a monster or a I think it's non-infantry and swarms. They FAQ'd it because it used to be even against knights, you could just throw a swarm into combat with them and they couldn't overwatch.
Okay.
That's
good to know. That's good to know.
So yeah, specifically, like, don't throw your infantry at a lot of these super heavies in most cases, because I've made the mistake even against George where I was like, oh, I charged your Lord of Skulls with my warriors, and they got really beat up in the Overwatch, and then it was like, oh yeah, I still get the Overwatch. I was like, oh,
interesting.
That sucked.
I had no idea. Well, I'm not charging cultists against something like that anyway. So.
And another
It's just
big
a
thing,
thought.
and I'm sure you're kind of conscientious of this, Ali, is that with flamer weapons, a lot of them are 8-inch range, so just charge from further away than 8.
Well, it's easier said than done because you're not going to make that charge more often
Command
than not.
point.
Command point and Fate Weaver, or not Fate Weaver, but Gaze of Fate.
Yeah.
Gives you
Yeah.
2 different dice. You can roll one at a time instead of like a complete reroll charge.
That's cool.
That's another thing I was going to ask. Let's say I have Gaze of Fate, and let's say I need to roll. Let's say I'm shooting my melt-a-gun or my plasma gun or whatever at something, and I roll 1, and then I use Gaze of Fate to reroll that, and I roll another 1. Can I
You
use
cannot reroll it.
Can you use a command point? No.
No, you can't reroll a reroll.
You can't reroll a reroll. So, but you're saying that in the other instance, if you roll 2 dice for the charge and you
It becomes a sequential roll instead of one roll. If I'm understanding that correctly, maybe I'm.
So you re-roll the whole charge, and then if you re-roll the whole charge, you could still use point to re-roll one of those.
No,
dice?
no. What I was saying is like Berserkers, when they take the banner, they can re-roll a charge, and you have to re-roll both dice.
Yes.
Well, with Gaze of Fate and a command point re-roll, you have 2 dice there. You pick up 1 dice, re-roll. You can pick up the other dice and re-roll.
Right. It's better than having to re-roll the entire dice because you roll 6 and a 1.
Yeah, you don't want to lose your 6s.
You don't want to lose that 6.
But let's say if I have 2 1s, because I've done this multiple times where I've stacked up my Gaze of Fate re-roll. I have it going into my charge. I still have my command point re-roll, and my Berserkers have re-roll charge. Let's say I did my Alpha Legion trick. I'm 9 inches away at the beginning of the movement phase. I'm now 3 inches away, but now with the shooting, I cleared away screens, and now I might have like an 8-inch charge or a 9-inch charge. If I roll that and I see I have 2 1s, well, why would I just roll one of them when I know I need bigger the whole re-roll charge at that point?
Yeah.
I see.
I just play like the odds. Yeah, I have options. And it's always nice to have options in life.
Yeah.
It's better to have more than one hoe.
So when you're doing the re-roll, it comes to the command point re-roll, it's 1 die.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's like there's certain things that specifically point out that you can re-roll a failed roll, like a failed psychic test.
Yes.
You have to re-roll both of them. But with the Farseer for Eldar, is specifically, I believe it specifically says you could re-roll 1 or both dice. Which gives you the best of both worlds.
Definitely. Especially when you have it's a bad result. What I think is pretty awesome is when you have a melt-a-gun in your half range, and you have like the Gaze of Fate reroll and the command point reroll, and you're rolling 2d6, picking the highest. Like, you know that you're going to get a 5 or a 6 with all those rerolls in your back pocket.
Right.
Oh, dude, it's just like the Gene Stealer cult, like the Primus strategy attack, because you can cult ambush a character with a unit and roll 1 dice basically for both. If you attach a Primus to a unit, you get to reroll your cult ambush, and there's a 1 command point stratagem in chapter approved for Gene Stealer cult that lets you roll 1 extra dice when you do that, but it says specifically if it's a Primus attached to the unit, you roll 3 dice and you still get the reroll. So like for Cult Ambush, I can take a unit of 20 Gene Stealers with a Primus to give them +1 to hit and roll 3 dice and then get to reroll all of them to try to look for a 5 or a 6 for Cult Ambush.
That's awesome.
It's gross.
It is. This is one thing that I'm going to bring up that I had in some of my talking points in my head here. Command points are really nice to have, but I see a lot, especially with battalions going up from 3 to 5.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
I find it hard. I find it very difficult for me if I'm taking 3 detachments to make any of them not a battalion.
Battalions are good. It's because like if you can get that cheap troop in there, it's just so many command points, and you can burn through them.
And we already went over this earlier. If you play Chaos, you're taking Nurglings.
Yeah, Nurglings, well, that's 1 detachment. I like to mix up my detachments here. You know, but the fact is that if you're having 3 detachments, there's no excuse not to have at least 2 battalions. And then it's just a matter of like that third detachment. You know, I see a lot of people not taking a battalion. For me, I feel compelled to take that battalion
I
to
mean,
get
I've
that
been running.
sweet 18 command points.
I wish I could get that third detachment in there in my list. Unfortunately, it's been difficult, but literally, I've just been running 2 battalions and getting the raw 13 command points off the bat. But even so, like, because I used to do 3 detachments constantly for command point purposes, now I just run 2, and I get 13 right off the bat because it's 5, 5, and the 3.
I'm
Oh, so
right there with you.
you're not. See, I always max out my detachments.
I
I
would
always get
like
3.
to. I have 3. Like, I'll have a supreme command or a spearhead or something like that. But not in the list I've been running most recently. It's just too difficult to get the HQ split because a lot of Tyranid HQs are expensive.
Yep. That's I was like helping my friend make a tower. The thing that's beautiful about the tower is they have dirt cheap troops. You get a cadre fireblade and like 3 units of like fire warriors for like under 150 points. You know, and that's basically
like the Neurothrope becoming an HQ, which happened not in the index, made him the cheapest HQ by a wide margin. Because before that, the cheapest was the Warrior Prime, who's garbage for about 125 points.
Oh wow. Okay.
And the Neurothrope is 70 points.
Okay.
And is a psyker with a 3-up invuln. So it's like, like you can kind of work with him pretty readily. Also, he rerolls 1s on psychic test, which is pretty sweet.
But you have to have cheap HQ and cheap troops if you
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
go the battalion route.
Exactly. I would need to run at least 2, so that's 140 points right there, and 3 units of Rippers, which is going to be 99 points. So I'm committing like 200, not quite 250 points to get command points, which isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. But I would have to axe like a Tyrannofex or something, which is not something I want to do.
And you also have to keep in mind that if you're running like an ITC mission, and you have like 6 characters that can be shot at because they have 10 or more wounds, you're gonna be like giving yourself up like some juicy points to the other team.
Actually, okay, James, can you answer this question to me? Because somebody in a forum I saw type this out, but it said for the ITC Champions missions, when you score an objective now, you can only get 1 off of a single unit. Like what I was reading said something to the effect of like you can't score like Big Game Hunter and Headhunter. Maybe that's specific.
I think
Oh,
they
Titanic.
Specifically say that for like something like Kingslayer and Titan. If it has a Titanic keyboard, you can't double up on it.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I think
wow,
that's what I was
Ali
reading.
answered it for me.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you're correct.
Okay.
But what's really crazy that missions it really shapes like what models you buy and how you build your list. What I thought was really amazing coming out of the ATC was the Rick and Morty list, which is Magnus and Mortarion with Ahriman and like demon princes and some cultists for your screen or Zangors. And you would think that would do horribly in ITC missions, which they did play at ATC. And the reason why is you can get Big Game Hunter from both those guys. You get Headhunter for all the different characters they have. You can get Kingslayer for killing one of them. Like you can max out on your secondaries very easily, but you have to always remember that's only 1 point per secondary point. Like you can only get 4 points total per secondary. That's 12 points that you can get from maxing that out, which is going to be difficult against that list. What that list is doing is killing more than you a turn and holding just as much as you, if not more, a turn.
Yeah.
So it starts to gain points as each turn goes on, and it's probably going to do pretty well in its secondaries also.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have missions like ITC that have Reaper, where if you have a unit of 10, it gives up a point, or a unit of 20 or more, give up 2 points if you kill it, or Big Game Hunter when you have a bunch of different tanks, all of that, like if your list is effective enough, those secondaries don't mean anything because you can play the primary better. So I don't know what my point was. Rick and Morty. is pretty nasty, and you're probably going to see that come to local tournaments.
Well, also you're making the point about like it being a format specific success.
Yeah,
Because,
things and stuff.
Yeah,
But
because ITC, like you were saying, like you double up points, but it did effectively. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, you can double up on that, but if your list is good enough, you're still going to kick. But they're going to change their missions soon, and that's going to change people's armies dramatically.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
the meta's changed so rapidly based off of like tournament missions. It's crazy. Like if I was going to bring book missions, my list would be so much different than it is for ITC games. Or like my Adepticon list is very similar, but because of those secondaries, it changes my list.
Absolutely.
And Ollie's just dipping his toes in these things. Nova's going to be exciting for you, man.
Dude, Nova was a blast the first time. I think you're really gonna have fun.
We're not hearing you, Ollie.
I see his mouth moving.
I see it too. He's not muted. Make sure your headphones are plugged in. Your mic's plugged in. Probably got unplugged.
Hear me now?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, hold on. Now?
Yes,
yeah.
Sir. Okay. It just got unplugged a little bit. No, but what? I lost my train of thought there. But like, no, I think no. Here's what I was gonna say. Look, the problem is with a lot of these tournaments, you're gonna attract a lot of douchebaggery in there.
I think honestly, like, yes, it's there. It's definitely there in presence, but I think there's enough people just showing up to play. Like, I feel like, and I don't think this is an exaggeration, even going to like Adepticon, like at least a third, if not a half of the gamers there are there just, showing off cool armies and bringing unique lists and stuff like that. Like, it's enough that like you're gonna get in games with people that are just pleasant to play.
You roll the dice on that though, because as you know what is this team happy business going on?
Oh man,
these douchebags.
Well, hey,
sitting there like
I deal with some of those little douchebags because they're local
they're really cool
here.
guys.
No. I've had experiences with them, like Justin Curtis. Like I've played games with them. They're not my enjoyable games. I remember going to a tournament in Madison, Wisconsin. He drove up from there, and I live on the Wisconsin border. So Madison is like 2 hours north, or the Illinois-Wisconsin border. So it's like 2 hours north from the border. He lives about an hour south of the border. So it's a 3-hour drive for him to get to Madison, or at least 2.5 hours. And he had Cult Terminators, the Thousand Sun Terminators, and he was proxying them as Death Guard Terminators. And this is supposed to be a WYSIWYG tournament. So he doesn't get approval beforehand. And then once he's there, it's like, it's so chill that people are like, whatever, play him. It's right size, just play it.
Yeah.
So he plays, and like his opponent was one of my friends, Josh, and he like kind of gave him shit about it. And he's like, oh, it's okay. I'm going to get the Death Guard Terminators when I win the tournament today. Like thinking with his prize money. He lost that game. After losing that game, he drove all the way home.
Yeah. Well, it's
like that just kind of shows you what kind of people those are. And the other ones, I've seen them pop up at local tournaments to practice for the bigger tournaments like ATC and stuff. But they kind of just play in like a little dungeon of their own and keep brainstorming. They don't really come out unless it's a big event or they have to practice for one. You don't really see them too often. And everyone else that plays locally aren't really excited to see them. But it is always fun when we do get a victory against them because they are very good players, regardless if they cheat or not. So it does like sharpen the knife, if you know what I mean. Like hard sharpens hard.
What I'm referring to though is a little more of the subtle cheating, and not even I won't even call it cheating. It's like when they contest. I've played against players before where they contest every little thing and they try to like. Oh, this is, a little bit here and there. It's not so much that any one particular instance during the game, not just pieces that are proxies. I can handle that. But what I find more frustrating is they're like, oh, no, this guy, you can't see him. He's behind this line of sight of terrain. I was like, well, I can see him. He's like, oh, no, you can't. And then the very next round, he's like, oh, I can see your guy. And it's like, it becomes a point where
I
They
think
fight you every step of the way to the point where you don't want to deal with them anymore. You're just like, I just want to have fun. I just want to play. And these people are like just going to sit there and complain and draw out the game and make it embarrassing. And I don't like that. That's not enjoyable for me.
I don't disagree with you, man. And I mean, I think one important metric to practice on that is, at least when you can't control for your opponent, like you just can't. But like a lot of the times when you move, like and this is something that like I can't tell you with my games with George how often I think statements start with, well, like I'm intending to do this,
Right.
like like
I gotta get to that.
just to be like it's a practice habit, and I don't like that necessarily that you have to do that. I mean, yes, you don't, but it makes it like it takes that lawyery element out of it because like if your opponent's like, oh, like sure, like okay, they've okayed it already. I'm like, cool. Like if the model gets knocked over, I don't have to worry about it. Like being like, oh, nickel and diamond, because I've had that happen before too, where something's fallen over and I didn't clarify, and then when I put it back up, it's like, oh well, like now it's not in range. Like that sucks.
Right. Nickel and dime. That's a perfect way to describe it. It's never something blatant. It's never like they roll like a 3 and they say that they hit when they needed a 4 to hit. It's never like that. It's sort of always subtle. And there's a million small instances of subtle bending the rules. Whereas to the point where none of them can individually be called out on their own. But they do it every step of the damn way, and it becomes very annoying to play.
Oh, dude, one of the bad habits that's a gaming habit that I've caught people. Actually, I think George used to do this a lot when he first started playing, and it used to piss me off. Really bad habit, just from like gaming, and I've met a few people that do this. They will interchangeably measure from the back or the front of their models, and that drives me crazy because I can't tell like if they're trying to like get weird movement. I'm like just literally like man, like all right, like care if you measure from the back. Be consistent because this shit's driving me nuts. It's just like an OCD tick.
Yeah, I've never even counted that, but that's something I have to look out for. But yeah, there's a million other things that I've encountered. It's just too much for me. And this is all the way back. See, I'm an old. I remember I played like in shop back in the '80s when they used to have tournaments there, and when they opened a local game shop in like Fairfax, Virginia. We used to go up there, and there'd be like players there that did the same thing. That they just like they're just constantly they're just constantly pushing the envelope on the rules.
Well, Ali, let me give you some reassurance here, since you're just now stepping into the tournament circuit and experiencing event after event and planning for events. Right. When I first got into this, the first like games I played was at home with a friend. And then from there, you go to a store and you may play the local tournament there. Yep. But I learned at the store, I encountered that more often. When I go to tournaments and I'm playing some of the best people in the world, especially because the Chicago area is so competitive. I don't think there's anywhere else in the country or even the world that's as competitive, in my opinion. So when I go to these events with these players, I don't experience that at all. Okay. There's one guy, Tony. He's a Chicago police officer, and he's one of the nicest guys ever.
What's his last name?
Malave, I think. Okay. I don't know. He's a Puerto Rican guy. He's awesome. But when I play him, it's like a dance. It literally is a dance. We help each other. It's so fluid, and you start to like see these players over and over. And if you're traveling to events, you start seeing the same thing. Like Chris and George saw guys they saw at Nova at Adepticon. Yep. And vice versa. You're going to see these people in the tournament circuit. If it's not a yearly basis, it's a monthly or bi-monthly basis. You will run into these people again. And you start to know the good players and the bad players. And it is a luck of the draw. You go to Adepticon or Nova, and I will see the asshole 2 tables down arguing with his opponent, while me and my opponent are having a beer laughing about those 2 assholes. Yeah. Like, it is so rare to run into those people. And when you do, I treat it as a learning experience. Because prior to getting to like the hobby scene professionally, as far as painting, doing this, I was in sales. So communication is all sales is. Like you're selling with your mouthpiece, so you have to communicate. So I see it as a challenge. Like when I have someone like that, I want to make it as fun and as enjoyable as possible. But like I said, when I play people like Justin Curtis, it wasn't the most pleasurable game, where I'd much rather play someone that wants to have a beer in the beginning. If we have a rules dispute before we even call a judge over, like, hey, you want to see it on a 4-up? like, and we roll off before, because who cares? We're here to have fun. We're playing a game. We want to play as competitively as possible, but we're not assholes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is literally most of my encounters that I play at tournaments. I might get a new guy who might have some social anxiety disorder or schizophrenia or something actually wrong where they don't communicate in society as normal as me or you. And those, like I said, it's a learning experience. I learned to adapt to that person. This is that person's form of entertainment. They might not be trying to be an asshole or slow play me. They just don't know. So I see it as my job as someone in the tournament scene that wants to continue this further and more professional, because we take fun seriously around here. Right. I want to help that person. I want them to have fun. I want them to be encouraged. And I have literally have told people, like, hey, you might not be ready for tournaments yet, so you should probably get up some practice games or try smaller tournaments or leagues. Like, some people cannot handle an orc army when you have a chess clock and you're playing a 2.5 hour game. Yeah. And you have to get hour and 15 minutes, all your models, 6 turns. Well, some people aren't ready for it.
But don't you think that at these big tournaments usually equate to bigger prizes? Bigger prizes and money bring out the worst in a lot of people. You know.
I mean,
it seems that logically that's what I think. I
yes and no. You know? I'm going to agree with you that you're going to see more of those people, but it's also the laws of averages. When you put more people together, you're going to get more of those people. But the thing is they don't ever affect you unless you're in the top with them.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, if you're, let's say you go into your first match at Adepticon or Nova and you lose round 1 or you squeak by, you're never going to see them.
But if you do, if you get, let's say you draw someone that's inexperienced and you end up destroying them, not by anything that you did, but just because they just, they're newbies. And then next thing you know, you're at a top table with one of these guys. That's the last thing I want to encounter, that are like good sports.
I'm going to agree with you at a local event when there's only maybe 12 to 20 people. That does kind of put a thorn in your day. But when you're talking on the grand scheme of like Nova, Adepticon, LVO, ATC, you have all your friends there. If you bomb out or your second game because you just played a scrub the first game and the dude who won it or placed second or third last year and he just whoops your ass and you're over in 45 minutes to an hour, do you have like the rest of the game to like hang out? You go over to your buddies' tables. Like game 1 at Adepticon this year when Chris and George came out, I played a dude who got into top 16 and he had like 9 flyers, Samael, and he was able to do over 40 mortal wounds in the movement phase and kill my cultist blob, where I got the go 1 and I'd lost 2 demon princes on my turn 1. And then I was like, all right, it's over. You don't even get to play turn 2. It's over. And I literally just went over to George, and he was experiencing a similar situation to him.
Right.
And we literally just won. Like, when you're with your buddies, it's not going to demoralize you and ruin your day.
Right. And that's true.
Yeah. I mean, even at the Nova last time, I only negative experience with someone who was probably the slowest slow player that ever existed. But no worries on that. I just kind of, like raged out. Like I was like, I wasn't quite happy with the game, but I went, I watched Jordan and David and Lobo play, and like it was cool to watch some of the dude, so much of the stuff there, like it's almost overwhelming just on the metric of like the cinematic value of some of the armies that show up. I don't know about you, but like I'm easily distracted, pretty colors, stuff like that. Like I'm just like, oh look, this is amazing like webway portal display board with all these, Eldar, or like this crazy Gene Stealer cult palace. It's just like I almost feel.
But don't you see that like that's cool? But half the people there, the ones that I don't, they're probably not even having like painted armies, or they're having like toy alligators like hanging around.
They were turtles. They were turtles. People think they were turtles.
Like alligators, but it's like the people that are like the hyper competitive, people that I don't want to run across. They have all traits that I don't want to run across. So yeah, but that's why I'm gonna go to Nova with Chris and with George, and I'm just gonna play in the team tournament on day 1, and then I'm gonna use the next few days to just wander around and just investigate stuff, and just hang out and just see how things are going.
Dude, you're gonna
Yeah.
like it a lot. I think I had an amazing time. And I mean the fact that all the profit on the drinks was for hurricane relief probably
Nice.
didn't help me not spend money.
Hey, let me ask you something. Like, let's say I'm going around. Is it like poor etiquette to try to help one of my friends by looking at the rules and conferring with them? Can you assist somebody, or is that like
Um,
you're not supposed to do that?
I
It's frowned upon if you're telling them like, "Hey, you should move this guy here." Oh, you should
Okay.
have done that.
Okay.
Like that's
Okay.
kind of like poor etiquette.
Okay.
But if like they're asking questions like, "What's this dude's toughness? What's this?" Like you're actually helping speed up the game, and
yeah,
most people would
absolutely.
enjoy that.
Okay. Okay.
I even will say, both at the Nova and even more at Adepticon, I played against. I think there was two people at Adepticon I played that were very like willing to just like ask me for help moving models. It's like, oh, there's this big blob, like I want to play quickly. Like, hey, can you move these guys like 6 inches this direction? I was like, yeah, man, absolutely. Like that's like that for me. That's while it's helping them, admittedly, because you want to be able to play and get all your turns in. Like I want to get my turn in too. So like that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me.
See, that's one thing I don't like about the way some of these tournaments are set up and how the scoring is done. Because a game that goes 6 rounds will have more points than a
Yeah,
game that goes 3.
I agree.
Yeah,
Seem
should be that way. I
Why?
think it should.
You do? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I'm kind of more of like, like when I watch a football game or I want to watch a hockey game, it's like the final score is what matters, and it's like it doesn't matter how you do it, you just win. But it seems like in this competitive 40k scene, there could be like a really great game, and you could really like take it to the opponent, but it only lasts 4 rounds. Whereas there's this other game that lasts 6 rounds, and both those guys get more points.
My
You know?
concern with the like 3 round end game is that it could encourage people in the name of getting stuff like board control and denying kills to just take
Right.
these massive horde units that have no offensive power and just march them upfield, obsecting objectives and playing slowly. And it's like you want to aim your games turn 3 or 4. Like that shouldn't be a
No,
desire.
no.
Um,
What I'm getting at is I think that a win or a loss should be weighted more. You know, I think a win should add additional victory points to your.
it does. In Swiss
Okay.
pairings, it's plus or minus 1,000. If you tie, it's 500 points. If you win, it's 1,000. If you lose, it's 0. So you still have your battle score, but when it
Okay.
comes down to the tournament, way Best Coast Pairings works is it's off the Swiss pairing system. So your win is always going to be worth more than losses.
Right, but then the tiebreaker comes down to your actual score during the game, right?
Yeah.
See, what I'm saying is that score of the game, if you win, that is what should be manipulated to be higher. So that like let's say like here's the situation. Like let's say I play a tournament, okay, and I win uh I win like three. I win 3 games that are really close. It was great games, and I won like 21-20 in each game.
yep.
Very competitive games. So I'm 3-0.
Yep.
But then this other guy, he played, and he had like 2 close games of reasonably close, and then one. No. Let me rephrase that. No. Let's say I play 3 games, okay, and in
Um,
these 3 games, I win two. I win like 2 very close games. Okay, like 21-20.
mhm.
And then I tie one at 20-20. And then there's someone else. I'm sorry guys. I can't remember how I was going to phrase this, but the idea goes that like let's say if I win like a it's like what happens in what I see, and I understand why this happens, and this happens in World Cup soccer too. That since there's so many people, you can't just take the win and loss record because it's going to be a huge tie. So you're going to
Well,
have to find a way to break the tie.
Yeah.
okay, you've experienced that more at smaller events. At bigger events, to get through the rounds, it's going to be the person with the most wins. Like Adepticon, for instance, you get into the top 16, and then the top 16 elimination tournament.
Oh,
So
it
it's
is.
so then it goes down to the last guy won every game, and the second guy have only lost one game.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay,
Okay.
so once it gets down,
and like Nova, the way it works is they have so many rounds that no one's going to have the same win-loss because of the way Swiss pairings works. You're going to work yourself into a situation where the two undefeated people are going to be playing each other.
Maybe that's what it is then. The smaller tournaments that I've been exposed to, and they work exclusively off, like, you know, yeah, the win-loss record first, but more often than not, there's going to be a tie there, and it's going to go to the points of the game. And it's never like the one thing that frustrates me. It's never it's the total points that you get, not the points margins you win by. So if there's one person that, let's say, they play high-scoring games, they're going to have a distinct advantage for the other person that played lower-score games, but they dominated those games. See what I'm saying?
Like, I 100% do. And another tournament I'm going to be going to the beginning of next month, they are doing Swiss pairings, but they're judging it on battle score. So you could have lost 2 of your games, but let's say those 2 games you lost, let's say 38 to 40, 30, yeah, by 1 point or whatever. And then let's say the game you won, it was a complete like 0 to 42, like you just smashed that guy.
Differentials.
All right. So because of that, I have a shit ton of like battle points, but I lost 2 games. There is a way to still win that tournament. Because they're scoring it based off battle points. Most of it do win, loss, draw. And you will never see a problem that you have unless it's a super small tournament. And like the odds are so crazy for people to get like the same scores going through. But the reason I oppose to your opinion, Ali, going to tournaments is the game requires 6 turns. In 4 innings, there's only so much time in each inning. And that's the game, okay? You do not end the game halftime. So we're under a time limit. It's a tournament situation. So if you're taking away turns that I could score points, you're hindering me by slow playing. So now you need to play faster. If you're not playing faster, then I'm going to play faster for you. Like I will move things along or call a TO, and that person will receive a loss for slow playing, and then I will continue going on.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned this slow playing, and this is one thing that I was going to talk to you guys about. To me, slow playing, it seems like that's an intentional act, you know?
Well, it's most cases it's an accidental act.
Okay, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was an incident I was listening to a podcast at this LVO tournament, in the finals, getting one of the down to the wires. And then what happened was this one guy, he took an hour to deploy his guys. And then when the other guy went first, you know, there was... Anyways, what happened was it took him like an hour just to... He was intentionally trying to slow the game down.
I mean, intentional is absolutely wrong, but I think accidental happens more often. And, you know, I mean, at least at these large events, like, I'm not trying to discourage new people from coming, but like don't make it the first time you're trying out your list. Like play a faction you're familiar with. Like if you don't play 40k night and day, don't borrow your friend's army and play. You know, like the list that you are not gonna you're going to least have to look up rules. I mean, make cheat sheets, make spreadsheets if that helps you. I know Georgia does it. I have done it before. I did it for the last Warp Charge gaming event. And, you know, like, I don't say it to be, like, you know, like, elitist as far as, like, oh, like, you're not fast enough, blah, blah, blah. But, like, that, like, that's almost part of the mission packets, in my opinion. Like, you're building your army to score as many points as possible, and you don't want to miss out because of time. Like, that's what sucks.
But, guys, don't you understand? It's not always, like, it's taking, you know, people are sitting there thinking about, oh, where should I move this guy? It's more like, okay, well, I have to roll 80 dice, and I get to roll failed hits, and then I have to roll for wounds, and then I re-roll ones for wounds, and then he gets to have to make a bunch of saves. He has to roll, like, 40 saves, and then 40 feel no pains. You know, those kind of things are what, you know, the dice are what really take
see, I don't agree with you. No? I think the dice rolling is actually probably like the maybe 1/3 mark of that time. I've played a lot of players, some even that have done well at the last Warp Charge gaming event, that like they really, really, really like to sit on the board and analyze and analyze and analyze. And be honest, it's kind of frustrating.
Right. Okay. Well,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
different. Yeah.
that's where when you're playing extremely competitive people that are good at the game, you end up being like, I need to think right and have the right choices, otherwise I'm going to lose this game because one could lose you the game.
Absolutely.
So that thought process is what takes the most time, and that's why I'm a big fan of chess clocks. Like, I really own a chess clock. Like, I use it whenever I have the opportunity to use it. I'm a huge fan of it.
Well, do you have to
And
constantly turn it on and off when someone's like, let's say it
dude,
goes
it's
to them and they have to roll their saves?
it's a slap of a paddle. Like, it's
Like, he's already said it back and forth a few times.
like countless. Like, it's literally a simple slap. So you set it on the table. You have it positioned where their buttons on their side, your buttons on your side. So when you're done, you slap it, and then now they roll a dice. And literally, when it says, you say, I need to have threes to hit, you roll your hits. And you need, I need fours to wound. You roll your wound, and you say it's -3 AP. You have this many. Boom, hit the time. Now they're gonna roll their dice. The next shoot or attacks. When you practice it, like, you just play 3 games.
Okay.
It's literally second nature. It stops you from thinking and not moving because you see the clock running. Also around here, that they've implemented is if you don't get to turn 4, you both receive 0 points.
Damn.
If you don't get to turn 4?
If you get to turn 4, so minimum a game has to go is 4 or you lost, basically.
Okay,
so
that's
you
brutal.
it should go 4 rounds. I mean, I don't think
it should always go 4 rounds. And it's so rare if I don't finish a game, like it's turn 5 maybe if I'm not finishing.
Right.
It's super rare if it's turn 4, but typically if we're ending by turn 4, I've won that game because the way my army is designed, I start like losing turn 5 and 6. So I'm not a slow player. Like, I have a chess clock. If you don't want to participate in it, I'm still going to use it to make sure I'm playing to my speed because I'm practicing, because I'm a professional at my craft. This is what I want to do. And I take it seriously. So I hit my paddle. And I'm not a dick to my friends. I'm literally laughing the whole time. Like, I'm not an asshole to the player. If they're playing a little slow, I ask them, like, is there anything I can do to help you? And I love the fact of using the chess clock if they're not, because I'll keep doing it. And then if a ref, like, I'm like, dude, we didn't get to hear, and here's my time, and here's theirs.
Okay.
Like,
well, it just seems like, 40K is not a simple. It's simple in a sense, but there's a lot of rules, and there's a lot of
shit ton of rules. It's a college course. Each codex
it is.
I see as a college course.
And then you're sitting there have to worry about a chess clock on top of it. It's like there's multiple things going on, and there's no referee. You know what I'm saying? It's like in these sports and stuff, there's referees. They don't have the resources in a professional tournament, even in this 40K, to sit there and have a ref at every table.
I agree. You definitely don't. But if there's a ref within, like, distance of a table or two, like, I feel that when you're playing an RTT, there needs to be a ref. Like, I really hate when there's no, like, TO there and they're really just the person who organized it is trying to get their ITC points, so they're participating in it. I'm not a fan of it. I go to a lot of those tournaments. I really like the guys that run those tournaments. But the reason I'm not a fan of it is because you misconceptions that people have that are bad about the game. Because all these preps that I talk about with the chess clock and stuff, that's to make me better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really have to, like, lean on these type of things. Most of my games go really simple. I'm drunk half the time. If they don't allow drinking in the game store, I'll go out in the parking lot in between games and get wasted.
Exactly.
Like, I'm literally there to have a good time. Right. So a lot of these things don't ever come into account. But when they do, the tournaments I go to, because the fact that they don't TO it, they then set more strict rules. So they don't need to. But because we are so competitive around here, it's only a select few that will be impacted by it.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, they're not even trying to be competitive. They're just like, hey, I'm rolling dice with the cool guys.
So,
like,
yeah, I would imagine that when there is a ref, like in these bigger tournaments, that when it comes down to the final 16, every game has a ref on there, right?
Yeah, when you're at DEPCON Final 16, there's at least 4 refs standing right there, near each table. When you're even talking the big events, I mean, you can go get a ref pretty easily. You can call one over. They're walking down the aisles. It's normally not that hard to get a ref in if you need to. But like I said earlier, like if it's a situation where I need to call a ref, let's just roll off this game anyways. Like, oh, you think you can see that? I don't think you can. Let's roll it off.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you think this rule can do that, and I don't think it can. This is my interpretation. That's your interpretation. I can see both ways. Let's roll it off.
Yeah. I think that's a much better way to do it.
Because that's what the game we're going against is. We're playing dice anyways.
Right.
Like, if you have to cheat me by skewing the wording of a rule where obviously it's a different way, then you need that in life. Go for it. I don't need that in my life. So here, have it. Because if you need it to beat me, you're probably not going to beat me, or you don't need it and you already were going to beat me.
Right. There's going to be people like that you're going to run into, I'm sure, every now and then when you play at those kind of places.
Yeah, it's very, very rare. The roll-off comes down. I mean, I run into this situation a lot where people second-guess me all the time, and I have to then show them the rules because of certain units I play and how I use them. Noise Marines, for instance, when they die, they get to shoot again, no matter what. Any phase, they just get to shoot regardless if you're within an inch. So if you're outside the shooting phase, I can now target your character. I was at a tournament playing a guy that I'm real good friends with. We play very competitive games. We respect each other's knowledge. But he was playing Tau. He shot my dudes, and he was like, no fucking way. I'm like, well, let's call TO. Showed him it, and he's like, that's why you take Noise Marines. They're overcosted for that only reason.
Right.
And he was like, well, you got me there. And I killed one of his characters early. Because the way the fight phase works is you pile in 3 inches, and then when you activate that unit, and when they're done activating, you can now consolidate 3 inches. And it's always to the closest enemy model. Well, Berserkers get to fight twice no matter what.
Do it again. You get to move 3 inches.
So they get to pile in, and then they consolidate to the closest enemy model. For 3 command points, they get to pile in and consolidate. Now, the way the rules work, if you started that phase within an inch of an enemy model or charge that turn, you can then do all your pile-ins and consolidates.
But don't you have to charge? You had to declare on the charge on the unit that you were going against?
The unit you're going to go after, but you can still continue to pile in and consolidate. So I've made it where I'm 5 inches away from my charge, that my initial target that they think I'm going to go into. 12 inches from me is a couple characters. It's hidden behind shit. Charge and all that. And they'll be like, how? You can't. You can't get there. I'm like, I know. But just in case. And I've done it where I've killed a unit. They were dead. I'm not in an inch of the enemy. So I then get to activate, which then brings me 6 inches because I did my pilot and consolidate. So now I'm within an inch, and then I use my stratagem, and now I'm attacking that person.
You know what? It's getting late, and I gotta assemble a bunch of my Zangors. But I want to ask this one thing. I wanted to ask you guys. Okay? Let's say. Okay, here I'm gonna show you this. Okay? Can you see what I'm? Anyways, now let me describe it to you. Okay?
All right.
Let's say I have a character, and in a circle around him, I place one of my units so that he's completely encircled.
Okay.
Right? You're 5 inches away with one of your guys, and you want to charge. Can you declare a charge on my character too?
Yeah.
But you can't get to him. You can't like physically.
Let's say I do get to him though. Let's say I kill your in my first round of combat or my second round of combat. Because I can activate for a 3rd time, I may be able to pile into that character and now attack him.
Sure. But what you're saying is that, like, let's say there's, okay, let me rephrase. Let's say that there's a line of sight blocking piece of terrain that's like 10 inches high.
Okay.
And my character's on the other side of it, and you're on the other side of it. Okay. Now you can't fly, so if you were gonna go around, I'm 13 inches away.
Well, but measuring through the wall,
directly through it. You see what I'm saying?
If directly through it, I'm, let's say, 11 inches. But to go around, it's 15 inches. Right. I can still declare a charge on him.
Okay.
And if, let's say, I go to roll my charge and I roll a 12,
Okay.
I could take the first model, put it towards that unit within an inch. All the rest of my models, as long as I keep coherency, I can place wherever I want them. So let's say I take models and I pass the unit that I'm initially going to attack.
Okay.
Now I know I can then pile in and charge and get myself around the corner.
Okay, so the charging rule is that even if you can't physically get to the character, for instance, let's say because he's walled off, he's like embedded inside of the middle of a unit, you can still declare a charge on that character if you see it within 12 inches.
Yep.
Okay.
So
And
then it comes down to the trickery of placing models and piling into the closest enemy model and consolidating into the closest enemy model. And as long as you pull your casualties correctly and I don't kill enough, you may stop me. But I will call that charge, and you think there's no way in hell I can get there, because there might be a chance in hell I can get there.
So as long as you're within 12 inches, you could declare a charge, even
Yep.
if you can't physically get to that character.
Yep.
Okay.
it also means if they can see you, they can overwatch.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, that's the added risk there, is that, you open yourself up unless, you're charging through a ruin wall.
And that's another thing about Berserkers is, even though they get to fight twice, if I only declare a charge on one unit and I kill that unit, even though I can still pile in and consolidate into another unit, I cannot attack that unit because I didn't declare a charge on that unit.
Right. You just have to declare the charge on every, but then you're subjected to more overwatch.
Yes. But sometimes if you don't have the fly keyword, you just have a tank or something, I may just want to touch you. So maybe I know that I can only kill this shitty guard unit, but there's a wyvern or something that is right there, and I need to touch that. So maybe I won't want to take that overwatch, but I will kill that dude and then pile in and consolidate into that model.
Right.
I use my Berserkers very crafty, and a lot of times people are like, you have to show me that one. And I have to discuss to them through the way it's worded, this is how you can do it.
Those things are just so susceptible to shooting, It's like, I just like look at them and I'm like, they just like, they're one of those things that the Berserkers, they'll die, They'll die
if I don't go first, they're my first unit to die. But now people have like learned how I play. So like if I don't go first, they'll shoot my noise marines because I hide them behind something so they don't get their free shots.
Right. Especially
in a way that's worked for me, because I've had that happen to me where normally my Berserkers would be taking those shots, and it allows my Berserkers to sneak out and get something.
Well, guys, I got so check it. I have
Dude, you got Zangors for days.
One Zangor. See a Zangor? That's number one. I have like 20 more to go. 19 more to go. And these 6 have like 30 pieces on them each.
Yeah, I want 30 of those real bad. They're amazing.
Well, I'm getting out of here, guys.
All right, me and Chris will close this out, man. Appreciate you stopping by.
All right, guys.
Much obliged.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, he's excited, man.
That's awesome, though.
I'm excited for him. That guy, he's been playing this game longer than I even knew this game existed. And he's excited to join the new tournament circuit for 8th edition. So much fun.
Oh, dude. No kidding. And I mean, he was doing pretty well his games at the last Warp Charge game event. And I mean, I don't know. I'm excited with my list. I think that it's fun if nothing else, and it's just cool to actually be able to have like some local gamers to roll around with. Like going with Connor and Ali to this event even on Saturday.
Yeah,
is exciting.
Yeah, the Lord of War event. Where's that? What city is that in again?
That's in Lynchburg, Virginia. Over at Dragon Fire Gaming's.
Do they got one spot left still?
I think so. I could be wrong.
So now or tomorrow, you might want to hop in on that because they have one spot left for Lord of War.
Yeah.
$20 a head, but everything goes towards prize support.
Yeah, that's cool. If I win, I can't decide if I'm gonna buy the Harpoon Knight or a Baneblade. Either way, I'll cult it up. Even if I can't.
Definitely Harpoon Knight. Harpoon.
The issue with that is that literally can't currently be run by the cult on rules.
Who cares? Make it Slanesh and it's a Renegade Knight.
That's true. That's a good point. That's actually a really, really, really good point. I
Dude,
love that idea.
I already plan on it. Like, I want to get one of those. Noise marine it out. I'm gonna put Bluetooth speakers on the
Oh
back.
man, that's brilliant, dude.
Dude,
That's
it's already in my plan, dude. And I
that's
want, and then I'm gonna have 2 of the Forge World Chaos Knight kits, and I'm gonna do the close combat knights with the sword and the thing that accompany it, and do that with Abaddon and just a bunch of cultists.
that'd be cool, man, for sure. I like, I'm sure you've seen even there's the Slanesh, I forget what knight it was. I think it was one of the Forge World ones somebody built that had like even some of the tentacles for Tyranids coming out of it.
Oh yeah, it's dope. Yeah, you got to go that route.
Cool one.
That route's way better than any other route.
Yeah, I like that route a lot. That you gave me exactly my goal for the event.
Nice. And then after that event, which is this Saturday, next Shadespire at Battlegrounds are one of our partners.
Indeed, a little Shadespire event will be.
And we also lowered the entry fee, so that's only $10 to get into a Shadespire event, which has the nice glass trophy, has a TO involved, so it's not like this players TOing themselves. It's going to be streamed. Like, so many exciting things for that event. And then after that, August 12th is Battle in the Warp doubles. If you guys didn't love Battle in the Warp, you got the doubles coming in. And Chris, did you find your doubles partner yet?
I'm still trying to sucker Carson into doing it. Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't want to bite, there's like 2 other gamers that I could still possibly pick from.
All right, well, you need to do that soon. August 12th is coming up soon. You need people to start pre-registering, because unfortunately, I wish George was here. He could talk about this more, but having an event like Gallery 5 is a nonprofit, and it still costs money to be there. And it's not like a game store where you just walk in, the store is going to be there no matter what, the tables are there no matter what, and everything goes towards prize support. If an event like Battle in the Warp at Gallery 5, you have a bar there, and that's how these places actually make their revenue. And if they don't make enough because either not enough people show up or not enough people spend money, that money has to be covered through sales, and then hurts the awards we can give out. It hurts prize support, even though we do have battlegrounds that donates prize support regardless of how many people show up, because we want to make sure we have something there for you. We still need the people and you guys having fun buying drinks at the bar so that we can continue being at that event, bar events and stuff. And I'm here in the Midwest, like Chicago, Wisconsin, and it's like the drinking capital of the United States. That's where Miller is like manufactured. Like, it's the brewers for a reason because of all the breweries. Like, this is the area. So for a 10 to 12 man tournament, there's going to be about $1,000 in liquor spent. But I hear that in the West and South that the liquor doesn't flow as well. So we need people coming out, selling out this event, or at least buying drinks for all your friends so that we can continue having events at Battle in the Warp and Gallery 5. I mean, Chris, you were there. What's your thoughts on the subject?
Oh, dude, I mean, it certainly enhances the crowd when you can turn it into more of a social setting. And, like, obviously where you're at, it's less of an issue, as you were mentioning, because, it's drinking capital. But, like, I definitely want to keep the venue doing well and successful, largely because, I mean, it's nice to be able to, especially as events get bigger, cater to that kind of social setting. Like, gamers play tabletop games over these video games that are, over, like, even mass MMOs. Like, I used to play World of Warcraft. Like, it's still different than sitting in front of a person and discussing this hobby where we move plastic toy soldiers and, just interacting with not just your opponent, but, like, if you're in a tournament hall, like, you're seeing a lot of cool games happening generally.
Yeah, I mean, this basically brings a large-scale event to a small venue, and it gives the intimacy of an RTT, but gives you that grandeur of a GT. And the main reason I'm bringing this up is because we're going into a double. So we're going to have hopefully double the amount of people, not necessarily double the amount of teams, but we do have space for double the amount of teams, not only double the people because there's 2 people per team, but we're hoping this builds the relationship further with 5 so we can hold a 2-day GT there because the singles is only held on the bottom floor. There's still room upstairs where we can have a full-fledged 60 table GT there. It's 2 days. And because it is an art gallery on top of that, we can have 40K art gallery going on at the same time. We can have a painting competition for people that don't play the game, which we can do, but we need the support of the community. And this is kind of like my call of like action. Like if you enjoyed Battle in the Warp or you're thinking about going, go to it, support the community, and we'll continue going bigger and better because we take fun serious.
Yeah, man.
What else is going on? ATC just happened. Everyone knows about Team Happy. Most of the people I talk to are more concerned about Best Coast pairings and it not working properly because of the way they pair, because it's a differential. You have to be over 10 points, like differential or some shit, to not be a tie. So if it's really close, it became a tie. And Best Coast pairings had a problem with that, so they had to rewrite the app on location. So more people had problems with that over the cheating because the cheating only affects a couple players, a couple teams. And those are at the top tables anyways, people that know how to handle that situation. So other than that, that event coming up worldwide is Nova. So that's super exciting. Sure you have your army already ready to go, Chris.
This is something that I've mentioned to Connor and George and Ali. I really don't think I'm making Nova this year.
Whoa.
They keep insisting like, oh, I'm gonna make it, but I've been like, dude, like I'm pretty sure I can't. Like I'm gonna be out of the country pretty much right out of that point. And especially like now as we approach, like I'm still not entirely sure why they still think I'm going, if I'm honest. But like I don't say that with any feel badsies because I would love to make it, but visiting family out of the country, and that's what it is.
It makes sense. Family's more important than toy soldiers. That's just life.
Yeah.
I know this weekend I was really looking forward to a tournament at the Keystone Bar and Grill in Cambridge, Wisconsin. It was an invitational of 20 people. A couple of people dropped out of it with prior obligations, so it's like down to 15. And unfortunately, things came up, and I won't be able to make that one. And I was really looking forward to it.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, I would really love to make the Nova this year, but I just not because I don't think.
Yeah, and then as far as coming to Adepticon still, right? March?
Yeah. That's definitely on the books. I am excited to show back up and have another good. It was a blast, man. I mean,
had a great time. I always love Adepticon, but this year was more fun, more tiresome because I did more of the games than ever before.
Yeah, there was a lot of it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I have always done the Long War doubles, and this year I really didn't like their missions, and I've been open about that. And I feel that they've gotten that feedback because they're doing Long War doubles at LVO, and they're using the ITC missions. So I'm kind of drawn where I was like, I didn't like the missions, so that'll be my day off next year as I'll take off Friday. But if they keep ITC missions, I might still play again and play every day of the con. But who knows? Cons are fun. I think it's the pinnacle of the hobby, is getting to the point where you're going to the bigger events and seeing friends all over the country that you met at these events.
Absolutely.
Super cool. Especially the armies you see. Like I only dream to one day compete with some of the best teams that try to win the team event at Adepticon. Because the displays they put together is amazing. I mean, Team Kamikaze, who did pretty well at ATC, but they won Adepticon, and they said they put about $2,000 into like their display, and that's just insane to think about. Like, you're putting that much money into a display, not an army.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes to take home the gold at those, and the prize support doesn't equal that. That's just sheer passion.
Yeah, it's labor of love, man.
Yeah, and I'm so like motivated by that. Where when something's greater than like money or gain, but it's just like that emotional experience.
Hmm.
Like Team Kazakami, they literally some of them had tears rolling down their face of just pure joy. And the only time I've ever cried of joy like that is when I first heard my son's heartbeat on an ultrasound. Like
Yeah.
I can't compare that to anything else in my life, and it's truly inspiring when you see that. So yeah, I mean, we've been going for since an hour and 47. I mean, Ali really likes to talk. He had lots of questions, but I truly enjoyed his company. And thanks for popping on, Chris. I know that it's hard for you to make this every time because of work.
It's not a big deal. I'm happy that I actually got to make. I mean, I'm almost glad we went over our normal allotted time because I feel like I got a full time's worth of show in.
You really did. I mean, Ali was just all about the meta, wanted to get on it right away. I mean, he didn't even introduce himself right away. He just wanted to start asking questions and get in it. So, I mean, I think this was successful. Show 14. We've done this 14 times now. This is the second time without George. I mean, he's the captain of the ship, but he's out doing hippie stuff in the woods. So,
I'll pour one out for him.
yeah, I mean, he'll be back next week. I'm sure he'll tell us all about his hippie adventures. Hopefully, he doesn't burn himself. Um,
Burning Man.
Burning Man. And then Shadespire is coming up. Speaking of Shadespire, did some more work on this on stream last night. I was able to almost crank this guy out to about 90%, and he's almost done. Got the base up to a level that's matching his base. So this is kind of flying through. After I finish this guy in the next stream, I think it'll only be like 5 or so streams, maybe 4, and this little warband will be done for Shadespire.
Dope.
And I only work on that in stream. I don't even pick up a brush and touch that unless I'm on camera.
That makes sense. I mean, it's good content, and I mean, I know you don't really aspire, so it's not really as much of a labor of love.
That's all lies, because I look at these orcs and they're awesome models, and I want to paint them. As soon as I turn off the camera, I'm like, I can get so much more done, not holding it in front of the camera.
I mean, I know the Forces of Death you painted, the Sepulchral Guard or whatever. Those were fucking cool, man.
Yeah, I'm super excited about those. I got to do another set of those that I'm going to do a display board with. I don't know if I'm going to paint them similar or different. Who knows? I really like their style. I think I can do it a little bit better this time, but I might change the style. What I'm holding up right now is a model that I've commissioned to paint by Ali. He actually commissions me to do a lot of his armies, more than just Eldar, but I did that. I have 2 more of those to finish and 2 planes to finish and get him ready for Battle in the Warp doubles. So there's my hobby progress. Yeah, man, I think I checked everything off. I think we took fun seriously.
Yeah, man. I mean, my hobby projects recently, I've just been batch painting some Slanesh demons. It's been fun.
Yeah. Who are you doing those Slanesh demons for?
Oh yeah, I'm painting a Slanesh demons army for my girlfriend, and I'm excited because that means she's gonna play 40k, and if she doesn't play 40k, I get a Slanesh demons army, so it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome. But I think it's more awesome that she picked Slanesh because that just like tells you more about her personality.
Oh yeah,
Is she a freak?
It's all about like the leather boots and like the straps and the collars and all that shit in general, even in public. So I'm not entirely surprised.
She makes you take the strap on, huh?
We don't talk about that in public.
Nobody's listening. This is a conversation between me and you, private. No one's watching. I promise.
I see interwebs. I see interwebs.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for us, right, Chris?
Yes, sir. Let's take fun seriously. And burn down this tournament coming up on Saturday. I see Will is gonna be there. In the chat.
Yeah, Will.
And yeah, it'll be cool, man.
Dude, so exciting. Also, we have another giveaway, Null Stormcaller. So make sure if you're not already, I'm not sure. We might still be on. I'm not sure. Can't even tell you.
Well, if we're still on, Stormcaller is a dick because he just taunted me that entire APOC game.